So in today's video, if this video was a rap, we would call it a freestyle rap because this video is literally just me and my thoughts that are going loud in my head and they're going rattling non-stop, and I decided, you know what, let me make this into a video instead of just thinking about this constantly. My name is Tepo Mavimbela. I talk entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs mindset in this video. Like and subscribe, of course. I always forget to tell people to subscribe to the channel if they enjoy the content. So if you do enjoy the content, ensure that you subscribe to the channel so that you can see more videos. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about. And the first one that I want to talk about in this video specifically is creating wealth and the approach of creating wealth and how we think about creating wealth. And I think this is very specific to people who have not yet accumulated the wealth to the point where they can see that this is wealth that will live on for generations. And when I say people who have not built that type of wealth, I'm also talking about myself. And I realized that the thoughts that I was having are things that I used to believe, and I see other people having these types of beliefs. When it comes to creating wealth, I think you, and many other people need to stop thinking about creating wealth only for themselves. They have to think about creating wealth for future generations. If you are an adult, a well-functioning adult, and you decide that you're going to have a family, you are going to have babies, children, 1 to 15. It is up to you how many babies you want to have. Personally, 15 would be great. But if you making so many children, you have to really stop thinking about creating wealth just for yourself. You have to actually remove yourself from the benefits or from reaping the benefits of the wealth that you have created. You actually have to think unselfishly, honestly. And I think about this because I look at companies that are old money companies or families that are old money families. And it all started with one person. They built the wealth, and then maybe a brother came in, maybe a bunch of brothers built a business, and everyone in the family for future generations came in and put some input into their business to ensure that these businesses keep on growing. And in this bit of a segment, I'm going to talk specifically to black people. I understand that there has been so much red tape for black people in creating wealth for hundreds and hundreds of years. In the US, we've had slavery, they've had Jim Crow laws, they had red taping or redlining, I don't know what they actually call it. Here in Africa, for the most part, we had colonization. Yo, I can't say that word. Colonization is a colonization. We had that, and I'm South African, so here in South Africa we had apartheid, and these things have actually created many disadvantages for black people to create wealth. And although some of the ramifications of these happening in the past, we can still see it in our mentality, in our socio-economic backgrounds, and where we come from, right? So yes, there's that. I acknowledge that. And now that you know that I acknowledge that, you also have to acknowledge that, especially if you're a black person from a hood, from the township, from the projects, we acknowledge that. Cool, cool, cool. Now let's move on. And by moving on, I'm not saying let's forget our past. By moving on, let me check. I thought somebody's knocking. By moving on, I'm not saying forget our past. By moving on, I mean that we acknowledge that these things have happened. They happened, or in some ways are happening, but opportunities are there now. There are opportunities for creating wealth. There are opportunities, and we see many black people creating wealth, building wealth, some of course ruining it for themselves, but we have so many examples of people creating wealth as black people in many countries in the world. If you think of Nigeria, you can think of a Dangote if you want to think of a Dangote. If you are in South Africa, you can think of Motsepe if you want to think of Motsepe. If you are in the US, oh my goodness, the examples are endless, from the music industries to other kinds of industries, right? These people have created their wealth, and they are working on generational wealth, and some of them have actually succeeded in creating what will generate wealth hundreds of years after they've passed on. And this is the secret to old money. When they create wealth, They create wealth with the goal of that wealth existing for hundreds of years after they have passed on. It's about creating a legacy. It's about building a legacy. It's not about me getting a nice car, getting a nice watch. I think it's a nice watch. Getting a big house, getting all types of lavish things so that I can look like, yeah, I am making money. Those things may be nice, of course. And when you do have money, you do want to enjoy the luxuries that come with having money. And I'm not one of those people who don't believe that money can't buy happiness. I absolutely think that it does. And I have experienced a little bit of money, like small money, to just buy bread. When I compare to the time where I didn't have money to buy bread, and now I can buy bread easily at all times. If I need bread, I can just buy bread, and I'm happy. And I think about the fact that, yo, man, if I at some point wanted to do a marketing strategy for my business and implement all that marketing from a remote area, maybe in Bali or Taipei or USA or somewhere in Scotland, man, I would be happy. That would be a happy life. I would be buying moments of happiness, right? So I'm not one who doesn't believe that money can't buy happiness, but I also do believe that while I am buying my happiness with money, I have to understand that this money that I am making is not just for myself. It's for my children. It's for my family. If I get married, which I don't really know if I'm going to get married or want to get married, but if that so happens, the unit that I am building with that family, with that woman, with our children, with our child, and our extended family members is to build wealth that will keep on increasing over hundreds of years. I don't believe in giving my aunt money, although I do give her money and she does the same for me as well. I don't really believe in giving people money. I believe in giving them knowledge that will equip, I believe in giving them knowledge that will have them well equipped enough to build something. It doesn't have to be a big thing. If you have a little bit of experience in building something, once one of you, if it's a family of 10 people, once one of you creates something that is really significant and 8 of you have experience of doing something that brings in income, that experience can actually translate into that significant one thing that that other person has built, and you can all keep on building that one thing so that it can reinvest into the other things that all become under one umbrella. And we tend not to think about this, especially new money people or people who don't have money like myself, or people who have not created big enough wealth. We don't think about building one thing to reinvest into the many other things that may be within the family or within the conglomerate of us friends. And we look at examples of businesses and we want to hate on these businesses. So in South Africa, we've got Remgrow by the Rupert family. Many people don't like the Rupert family because they own so many things related to foods, related anything that you can think about in your household, like for cleaning, for the stuff you eat. There's Tiger Brands. Tiger Brands does so many things. I don't know all the businesses under Remgrow because there are so many businesses under that one umbrella. But this is just one of the many umbrellas that have many, many, many children, which these children are businesses. Unilever is a multinational business. Unilever, one company with hundreds of business underneath it. Coca-Cola, with hundreds of businesses underneath it. And these businesses were all built by 1 or 2 people some time ago, hundreds of years ago. It could be 100 years ago, it could be 60, it could be 200-300 years ago. And the reason that these businesses that were built 100 or more years ago still exist now is because a system was built, was created, and that system is being followed to this day. Yes, it gets improved here and there just to ensure that the business goes in with the times of what people are needing or wanting at that moment. And they build that business towards that. And when we are creating wealth, guys, if you are a viewer of this channel and you want to create wealth for yourself, create it for yourself, but also create it for your family, and understand that after you have passed on, people will still live on. People that are your descendants will still live on. And these people have to also reap a bit of what you saw when you were alive. And these people have to learn systems to ensure that this keeps on continuing for generations to come. Because if you don't do that, you'll be end up being like the Vandertat family, where the original guy created a multi-billion-dollar business, I think he started in shipping, and then when trains came, he was in that as well. And then when he passed on, his descendants dissipated all of the wealth. I think it's the Van der Tuck family, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that this person may have not taught his children, his family systems that will continue this. If he tried or if he did, then the fault is of the family. But if you are creating wealth and you create a system and they are able to continue that system, then great, great for the family, great for you. If you tried and after you pass on, they drop everything, everything fails, then it's not your fault, it's their fault. And history will know that it's not your fault, it is their fault, it was their fault. And they themselves will know, and their children will know. As you already know, this saying that bad times or tough times create strong men create easy times, and easy times create soft men create tough times. That doesn't always have to be the case. If we remember where we come from, the tough times, and the lessons are taught generation to generation, what kind of tough times they can go through. If we teach those type of things, then it doesn't have to keep on going. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is jobs. Jobs. A lot of people want to get a job so that they can fund their business, they can grow their business. I remember this as well very specifically because of the woman I was seeing. The woman I was with wants to get a job or wanted to get a job to fund a business. But this is not just her, this is so many other people who want to do this. And as much as that is a great idea, actually, I think it is a great idea. It's something that you should do. But for people that are working and they already have jobs and they have children and they can already see with their own job that job security is not so safe, is not so secure. And yet they still want their children to go to school, go to college, get their degrees, and look for a job. I think this is a very bad approach. And the reason I say that is because job security is no longer so secure. Technology is replacing many, many jobs. Now, if we're talking about something that has to do with brain surgery, go to college, go to varsity, finish your PhD, get your practicals or whatever it is called, and then come to do your brain surgery. Don't just willy-nilly get into doing it because you think you can do it. But if it's something that doesn't need someone to go to college, there's really not much of a need for them to actually go to that college. And even if they do go to college to get the knowledge in college, if you started a business 50 years before your child was born, okay, 50 years is a lot. Let's say, like myself, 27 years before my child was born. When she was born, I was 28, which was last year. My business had already existed. The business is growing currently as we speak. 5 years from now, she will be 6 years old. She will not be old enough to be in the business herself, but the business will be grown enough to actually prepare her for the time that she eventually goes to school, matric, and varsity, if she so decides to go to varsity and finishes and come back to work for the business. And by that time, who knows how many other things will be under the business, and this big umbrella will be having multiple hands or multiple touches, is touch, feet, hand in multiple industries. And she can probably get a job from one of the businesses that are under the business, under this one umbrella. And this, as much as it is about jobs, it is also again about wealth creation and it being for generations to come. Because you see, when you have a job and you stay at that job for 30 years, 40, 50 years, and you get a great retirement package, and maybe you want to start a business after that, cool, cool. You start a business, or you might be a little bit tired, it's not too late, but at least you do start that business. But if you're not one who has ever planned to start a business after their retirement and they have children, your children cannot go study the same thing that you are in the job for and inherit your job. And this is where the problem is for me personally. You cannot inherit jobs. My mother has been a nurse for a very long time now. I think probably 22 years, 22, 23 years. She's been a nurse. And she's going to be a nurse for the next 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. I think so, for the next 10 or even next 20 years. Who knows? When she retires and decides that she no longer wants to work, even if I studied nursing and I was one of the best nurses, I cannot take or inherit her job and continue on in her job. It's not royalty, it's not chieftaincy, it's not kingship. So when it comes to that type of thinking for myself, and I think for many other people who are creating wealth, is that if you are watching this and you are somebody that has a job and you want to create wealth for yourself and for your family, you also have to understand that when you are investing in the wealth in the business or the businesses that you are investing in, you are leaving an inheritance for your children. And if you stay at the job for good until retirement, your children have nothing to inherit. Maybe you bought property, maybe you bought a house, and they can have that to inherit. But what if you have 9 children? What if you have 9 children? Do all those 9 children inherit that house? Maybe you can do it like the Indians and the Arabs. They stay in one house and they keep building wealth from that. Maybe your children are like that. Maybe you taught that to your children that don't follow in my footsteps, create your own footsteps, and this is the better path. But 9 times out of 10, or let me just say 8 times out of 10, for someone who wants to say, my family is not like that, idiot. 9 times or 8 times out of 10, a person who believes that they had to go to college, get a job so that they can be secure for good, although it is clear nowadays that job security is not so secure anymore. 9 times out of 10, those types of people teach their children to follow in similar or same footsteps. And this is a system that is no longer working, especially for countries that are underdeveloped or developing. Even for highly developed countries, job security is not so secure. We saw this with the lockdown and COVID, so many retrenchments. The technology space is so big in USA, for example, social media companies, most of them come from that country, but most of these social media companies have retrenched or have completely fallen. So even in highly developed countries, job security is not so secure. The only way it is secure is if we build our own wealth, if we build our own companies. And trust me, if 10 people, let's say we are in a country of 1,000 people, in a country of 1,000 people, 1,000 families, rather, let's say 1,000 families so that the population is higher. 500 of the families within that 1,000 families population have businesses. Then we can think of or talk about job security for the other 500 that don't start businesses. But if you are in a country like South Africa where the majority of people are unemployed and they're looking for jobs from 10% of the country's companies that provide for the country's GDP. I think I'm using the words right there. If I'm not, I think you do get me and try to get me. If 80% of the population is looking for jobs from 20% of the country's population's businesses, or even less, then the poverty is going to be higher. The unemployment is going to be really high. So it's high time that we think about creating wealth. It is high time we think about building our own businesses. It doesn't matter what type of business it is. Build that business. Teach your children to grow that business. Your children are probably going to be smarter than you. If they go to college, they're probably going to grow that business into a fucking phenom. The business that I am building now, my child, and hopefully I have more children who also will be involved in the business. If I teach them well enough to work in the business, for the business, towards the business, and they go get formally educated, and they come back smarter than me, knowing things more than I do, They will grow this business. They will come up with ideas that will keep on growing this business. And that's the angle we should all follow. I'll see you in the next one. Like, subscribe.